All right, hello. It's John here, Farmer John, and I'm going to plant some beets. Well, here I'll show you a little bit here first. Don't have the high technology, but I have a plan. I think it looks like it's coming out backwards, but I have a plan, and today is the day for planting beets. And I use something called the biodynamic calendar for my planting. So beets are a root crop, and right now we're in the root cycle. So I'm going to be planting the beets today. And my schedule calls for planting 4 varieties. So I've got this one here. It's called Chioggia. Sometimes people call it candy cane beets. Got lots of these. It's called Cylindra. That's the variety. It's a cylinder beet, so long and tubular, kind of shaped, kind of like a fat carrot. And then I've got Touchstone Gold. That's a golden beet. And then my Boro hybrid beets. Nice red round beets. And just FYI, because sometimes people hear the word hybrid and they think it's something like GMO, or it is not. A hybrid is simply something created through crossing plants, and you can do that. That happens all the time in nature, and you can do it intentionally to create certain varieties of foods. Okay, so those are the seeds, and what I'll be using is something called the Paperpot transplanting system for planting this round of beets, and you'll see as I go along, but the Paperpot transplanter allows you to seed and then plant these beets in a paper pot system, and basically when they're ready it pulls out like a long chain and it gets planted in the soil. And I do have a video about that, but I don't know if I'm going to attach it to this one. Anyways, so they come in 3, maybe I'll show you like this first, because they come in 3 different sizes, I guess you could say, or spacings. Okay, so this is a 2-inch spacing, this is a 4-inch spacing, and this is a 6-inch spacing. So the 6-inch spacing, or 15 centimeters, 4-inch spacing, or 10 centimeters, and then the 2-inch spacing, which is close to 3 centimeters there. Okay, so those are the sizes, but for beets, you use the different sizes for different crops. So like the 15 centimeter or 6-inch ones I use for my head lettuce, and for the beets I'll use the 10 centimeter or 4-inch paper pot. So this is what it looks like when it starts. The paper pot system comes with the transplanter itself and then all the tools to make it work. So these are little stretchers, I don't know, I forget what they're called, stretching rods maybe. Slide them into the end. Slide the other one in. Takes a little light touch. Oh boy. Try and slide the other one in. There we go. Okay. And then it's going to pull it like an accordion, okay? So this is the frame. Move these seeds out of the way. So the frame that you see here is what holds the paper pots in place while I'm filling it with soil and seeding the tray. So it fits over these kind of teeth at the end. I'll kind of see if I can zoom in a little bit, but it's got to keep pressure on the paper pots. So it's like that. So there's a close-up. You can kind of see it hooks over these metal teeth in the ends. And then once it's on the frame, I can pull the rods out because the frame holds it in place. Okay, then I take the tray, and they're usually pretty clean, but there we go. Put the tray over top, flip it over, and then you can't pull the frame off yet because you need some pressure in the pots in order for it to stay in that form. So this is where you fill it with some soil. So the soil I'm using is a combination of two products, but primarily this one. So it's called ProMix. ProMix Organic, sort of vegetable mix. Okay, and it has something called Myoactive. This here, which is like fungal mycelia. It's all the good stuff. In terms of fungus, fungus is really useful for plants. They need it. Fungus is like a little network of, it's almost like an extension of the roots for the plants. So you need it. And sometimes when I mix in the soil, you'll see maybe a seed dropped in my soil mix. So I've got a sprouting broccoli or something there. Accidental. So I'll leave that out of the tray. But you spread the soil around like that. Then I give it a couple of taps. Oops. There goes my camera again. Give it a couple of taps. And then I just top it up again. So it's firm, but I haven't really pressed it down too much yet. Okay, and I get all right up to the edges. Basically just filling this whole area, not worrying about the individual pots, but just simply covering the whole tray. Okay, so there's that. And then the system comes with a dibbler. This is a dibbler. So it's got 264 dibbles. I think that's what they're called. Because there's 264 trays. No matter what the spacing, that 2 inch, 4 inch, or 6 inch, there's 264. So you line this up. And it kind of just fits right in place. And you give it a little pressure, push it down. And since I've had one dibble break off, over here I have to make one hole manually. No big deal. Okay, so it's been dibbled. After that, you have this drop seeder. Okay, the drop seeder is some holes. So the little holes that you see are where the seeds drop, and then this thing that I'm going to move slides so that the seeds will drop down in the big holes like that. Okay, so it starts over the tray in a position where the seeds are not going to drop. You don't want them to just drop haphazard. So once I have that, so the holes are closed, so they're not going to fall right through, I take my beet seed and I can just pour it in here. More is fine, it doesn't really matter. So I've poured it in, and then I'm going to shake it down, and it's going to kind of slowly fill up all the holes. So it's good to have lots of seed in there so you don't miss any holes, and you don't need to shake it too crazy as long as it's moving around. And then you let it all fall back down to the other side again, kind of like in the holding area. And so now I'll move the camera so that you can see. Okay, so I've got all of these holes filled. Okay, and because this is a whole system, the drop seeder is designed for the paper pot. So it's exactly, those large holes underneath are exactly over top of the dibble marks. So when I slide this, and just before I do, I'll take a quick examination. You want a seed in every one. So you can do a little visual inspection. Looks good. So I'm going to push. You can see it sliding, and then the seeds will drop. And then once it's there, I'm going to stop the camera just for a sec, or move it back here. Don't need to stop it, but I've slid them in, and now I have to tap it because, especially with beet seeds, they can get stuck. They're kind of an awkward shaped seed. So there's quite a few left behind. So I'll take my pencil, just poke them in to their designated spots. Okay, it's important to get a seed in every cell. You don't want to waste the spaces in the field, because the chain comes out as a chain. You're not pulling the plants out individually, so you really want the chain to be filled so you don't have to go back and transplant into the rows if you don't have to. Okay, so beets are a little bit more cumbersome. You can see here with all seeds you don't have to push them through like this. Some of them are smoother, so they just fall in, but such is the way with beets, and it's worth the time. So if I wasn't using the drop seeder, I would be dropping each seed in each individual cell manually. So, you know, like having a bunch in my hand and sort of dropping them as I go. So now all the holes are empty. I'll put it back, and it's still got the seed in there. I'll leave the seed in there, but I'll just set it aside and not drop it. I have dropped it before. And then there's seed everywhere. So now it's been seeded. So each cell has at least one beet seed. Some of them have two, and that's fine. Easier to thin out than it is, you know, to have to replant or reseed. Okay, because then the plants are already developed. If I try and replant, that involves having more plants available to plant in the row at a certain stage. So there we go. I'm going to fill the top back up. And I will often, for the purpose of this video, I'm just doing one tray, but I'll do multiple trays. So I'll set I have 3 trays of, or about 1.5 trays of each kind. So I would just set up 6 trays or so, and then seed them all one after another. Okay, so there, that's, and at this stage you can see I'm patting it down a little bit because I want to firm it up, but I don't want to shake it now. If I drop it again, it may bring seeds up, and then you want soil contact with seeds. That's part of the thing with seeds. It helps them to germinate. So there I have that, and I have a few labels already, thankfully, and it's important to label. But that's one of those things where I say, do as I say, not as I do, because sometimes I forget, and then I go, ooh, I wonder what I planted there. But I have some labels already, so I'll write down beet, and this one's cylinder, and today is April, oh, what is today? 23rd? 22nd. I'm going to write down 22 for now, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct it. Okay, so I write down the date just so I know kind of when to expect it to arrive. Just set the label aside. I'll take the frame out so you can see now that the soil is filled in there, the frame isn't really doing much. Okay, so there I've got my tray.